You guys are watching NFL Daily, and the NFL trade deadline is just around the corner. So today's video, a bit rapid fire, since about all 32 teams, one trade candidate for each NFL team. One in down, I went with the bigger name, by the way. We begin, though, with Christian McCaffrey, the Panthers running back. And look, the bigger names, guys like DJ Moore, Derek Brown, Brian Burns, I think are going to get dealt. I'd be a bit surprised if McCaffrey gets dealt. After all, NFL trade is not nearly as sexy and active as the MLB, NBA, but McCaffrey has at least a chance. The Panthers will listen if a team steps up. So will the Panthers trade Christian McCaffrey? Y for yes, N for no. Get your predictions in for me in the comments section. Let's go to Tampa. We're talking about some buyers on here, so a little bit tougher for those teams that aren't going to sell. But they've got depth at receiver. Scotty Miller's kind of receiver 6-ish when Julio's healthy, and Gage and Goodwin and Mike Evans and Joe Darden's your return man and Brashad Perryman. Miller could be the odd man out. So if you want a slot, there's an option. Lorenzo Carter, the Falcons. They already traded away Deion Jones, their best trade chip in terms of likely being moved. Carter, meanwhile, rental edge rusher. They've got some younger guys you can give playing time to. But the Falcons are not as bad as I and others thought they were going to be. Maybe they don't sell quite yet. On the flip side, the Saints have been a disappointment. They're not going to trade Michael Thomas. No one wants that contract. Come on, guys. Tre'Quan Smith, however, could be obtainable. You've obviously got, when healthy, Thomas and Landry and Olave and even Marquez Callaway. Also a good fit there. Smith, for a team that wants a receiver, Green Bay, could be an asset. Clelin Ferrell, the Raiders defensive end, next up here. And I think the Raiders would love to find a trade taker for Clelin Ferrell. He has a $4.77 million base salary, though. It's fully guaranteed, and the Raiders save $0 if he were to be cut. So if someone wants to take on, well, it's technically 4.77 divided by 17, and then that number multiplied by how many games are left, so we'll cut it in half, $2.4-ish million. Awesome. I don't know if anyone wants to do that, though. So he'll be shopped, I think for sure. I don't know if anyone wants him, though. Denver Broncos almost put Bradley Chubb on here. Instead of with a more, I think, realistic trade piece, Albert Okwuegbunam, or Albert O for short, because that's a mouthful. He is not playing for Denver. Greg Dulcich is their new tight end one. You want to take a flyer on a straight line speed athlete at tight end, that's a good name to consider. Ronald Jones for the Chiefs. Yeah, he's available. He's running back 4, as his career has not been what I thought it was going to. I loved him coming out of USC, man. Big L for me. If the team wants a back, Denver, maybe? Ronald Jones is available. Former first-round pick Jerry Tillery has never quite been what the Chargers wanted him to be. They're going to be a buyer this year, but if they find interest in Tillery, I think a trade could certainly happen. He's been a disappointment so far. In general, the NFL trade deadline is not that active. So over or under 5.5 trades before the NFL trade deadline. O for over, U for under. Let me know in the comments section. Patriots wide receiver Kendrick Bourne next up here. You could go Nelson Agholor as well. Neither guy has lived up to the contract. Bourne's fallen out of favor in the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, Bill Belichick, who's ever calling the plays offense, and not like Billy Zappe's a deep ball thrower. Anyway, he saves some money, the Patriots do, if they trade him. If anyone wants Bourne, I think they could get him pretty cheap draft pick-wise. Who is more likely, though, to be traded of the Patriots' 2 receivers who make sense? Kendrick Bourne or Nelson Agholor? It's the Jets. Everyone has had interest in Denzel Mims from a comment section perspective, right? The Jets wanted a 4th/5th round pick for him. Nobody came close to that, frankly, nor should they. The Jets have had no traction here. That could trade the deadline. Teams are Green Bay, go get Denzel Mims, please. One more name for the Jets to consider here, who are good this year, is Bryce Hall. Has not been playing, but I liked him a lot coming out of Virginia. A decent name if you need cornerback help. The Dolphins, also probably more buyers than anything, but Mike Gesicki is a part-time player. Turns out the big slot receiver who can't block isn't a great fit for the Mike McDaniel offense, who wants their tight ends to block. He's been a part-time player. He's a good athlete, can make some plays above the rim, but he's not a great fit. The issue here, contract. It's expensive money-wise if you wanted Mike Gesicki. All right, the Bills. And the AFC East is good this year, by the way. Zach Moss. He's not playing that much. Devin Singletary is above him. James Cook is too. Maybe a change of scenery is needed for Zach Moss. Chase Claypool is next up here. That is the Steelers receiver. Has been linked to all kinds of trade conversation, especially with the Green Bay Packers. Coming off his best game in a while this past week against the Bucs, but has seen his production for the most part go in the wrong direction, and that is disappointing for Claypool. Talented, the height, weight, speed athlete, right? It's a good name to keep an eye out for among receivers who could be moved. Jessie Bates is next up here. The Bengals don't make many trades, so this is a borderline pipe dream. But if they lose a couple games in a row, maybe they go, you know what, we're not going to pay Bates next year. Let's get a good draft pick back and embrace the Dax Hill-Von Bell duo at safety. I would be surprised, but you know what? Never say never in the NFL. Now, if you want to make some money betting on football, do it with BetUS. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code NFL Daily. $100 down gets you 125% deposit. Once again, they've got NFL MVP odds. Josh Allen, by the way, is your heavy betting favorite. Then Jalen Hurts. Hell, we mentioned Christian McCaffrey. You can bet on where McCaffrey will play after the deadline. Carolina, by the way, is still the betting favorite on that one. To the Browns, Ronnie Harrison, who they once traded for before the trade deadline from Jacksonville, isn't playing very much. He's not been that great for Cleveland. Might be a coaching issue. That's just me. If you want a safety, call the Browns about Harrison. The Ravens and tight end Nick Boyle, the blocking tight end, has been phased out of the offense. He's not making a big impact at all this year. There's been a lot more Isaiah Likely for the Ravens in their two tight end sets. They also drafted Charlie Kolar. It's a matter of when, not if, Boyle's off the roster. They should shop him if they can find a trade partner. Robert Quinn, next up here, as we're at the halfway point, I believe. I almost put Roquan, but let's go Quinn instead of Roquan today, because Robert Quinn allegedly wants out of Chicago. It's also Jason Lock-and-4 who started that, so up and down accuracy from that standpoint there. Quinn, though's value has plummeted. He has not been good this year. The Bears, by the way, can't get pressure with 4. That's been a real problem for that defense. He was awesome last year, though. You could still get a top 100 pick back for Quinn, especially if the Bears eat some of the money that's owed with his base salary. Michael Brockers, also once traded from the Rams to the Lions, has not been a big part of that team's rotation. A bit of a household name for the random defensive lineman nerds like myself out there. A bigger name than most, I should say, but not playing much. Prime trade candidate for a Lions team that isn't a playoff contender, unfortunately. Green Bay, Amari Rodgers. Look, if and when they add a new receiver, he's the one on the chopping block. He has been terrible in Green Bay. The other Rodgers, maybe the other if we include Richard Rodgers on a technicality, he's not on the team, but whatever, he's been bad. Muff punt, dropping like his 5 catches. It's been bad. He's not good, but former high draft pick, someone might have interest. Oli Udoh, next up for the Vikings. It's tough to find linemen who are available, and he's a backup right now for a team with good offensive line depth in terms of backups. You need help? Call Minnesota, even if it's not a name that I think many people know unless you're a true Vikings fan, and that's okay. We have daily NFL videos for you guys here, live shows, news and rumors. We've got you guys covered. So what I'm saying is this. Subscribe, hit that big red button, and stay in the know with all the latest and greatest NFL trade rumors. All right, Isaiah Simmons. I'm getting bold on this one here. Isaiah Simmons and the Cardinals. I love the coming out of Clemson. Chess piece on defense, and Arizona doesn't know what to do with him. He played a lot of linebacker last year. I thought played pretty well. And then they're like, he's going to be our new overhang guy. And it lasted 1 game, and then they benched him, and now he's a part-time player. Arizona does not deserve Isaiah Simmons. They do this all the time. Hassan Reddick didn't use him right. Zaven Collins, didn't use him right. Isaiah Simmons, not using him right. So get in the comments section. Free Simmons and send him to a team with a good defensive coordinator. He would thrive with a team like a Dan Quinn, a Brandon Staley, a Bill Belichick. Free Isaiah Simmons in the comments section. The Seahawks and Sidney Jones are next up here with the emergence of guys like Tre'Quan and others. Jones is not playing a lot for Seattle. Teams always need cornerback help. That's a good name to go call on for a team in Seattle that's not a tanker like I thought they were going to be. They didn't play tank commander Drew Lock, and that's why. Ross Dwelley, if you want a blocking tight end, here you go. He's tight end 3 for San Francisco. With the Trey Lance injury, they're not trading away Jimmy Garoppolo, so not a lot of great options in San Francisco. This one's obvious. The Rams and Cam Akers. Akers is on the trade block. I think both sides want a fresh start. The injury is a big-time red flag. He's not been the same guy since coming back. Was worse than I thought, numbers-wise. But teams need backs. If you get him for a 5th-round pick even, I think that's what it might cost. It's pretty reasonable. So who will trade for Cam Akers? Let me know in the comments section. Maybe a team like Carolina. You get wild with it, right? Maybe not. Drop that team name in the comments section. The Commanders and William Jackson, the corner, next up here. He's apparently on the block. May or may not have requested a trade. I think he did. By the way, the old leak it and then deny it type of deal there by Jackson. Commanders are not very good. They should sell. Terrell Basham for the Cowboys. Not many great options here either. He's coming back from IR. He returned to practice on Wednesday, that 21-day activation window. They go 6 deep at edge, including Micah. There's not room for him barring injury. A trade does make sense. Kenny Golladay, the Giants receiver. They would love to find a trade taker for Kenny Golladay in that contract. I don't know if anybody wants to take him, though, because it's bad, and he's been bad. This might be a, you know what, Kenny, go home, we'll cut you in the offseason type of move. Seriously, that might be how bad it is. There's also been speculative linked Kadarius Toney, who has hamstrings made of tissue paper and, glass bones and paper skin, all kinds of issue. Yeah, exactly right, Jack. Every day he breaks his legs. Every day he tears his Achilles. It's a disaster. He can't stay healthy, but he's a first-round pick. Who is more likely of the two Giants receivers who are both banged up right now to get dealt? KG for Kenny Golladay, KT for Kadarius Toney. Andre Dillard, next up here, the Eagles' offensive tackle. He's really a left tackle only, but there aren't many starting caliber left tackles you can find. I think Dillard is a low-end starter. He has a high asking price, but a team, if there's an injury, might get desperate come trade deadline time. The Texans and Jerry Hughes. Houston is a prime selling team, and this is the exact type of guy you sell. He is having his best year in several years, in a very long time, frankly. 3 TFLs, 4 sacks already. He's a 1-year rental. He's cheap. He's a veteran. Sell him to a contending team. Get a draft pick back. Keep throwing those assets at young players. Sign a new vet in the offseason. If you're still bad, trade him away again. It's kind of it borders on like the Madden style of roster building of like trade and sign and trade. But it works for Houston. An old Jerry Hughes doesn't help you when you're not a good football team. He should be dealt at the deadline if there's an offer for him. Now let's go to a young edge. Ben Banigou, the Colts defensive end, who I liked coming out of TCU more than LJ Collier, which I was right about and also wrong about because neither's been that good, unfortunately. He's buried on their depth chart, but a good athlete. Maybe a team takes a flyer on him. Heck, maybe you flip Jerry Hughes for Ben Banigou and give the Colts a better option, and Houston gets a young piece. The Jags, I didn't have many good names here. Andrew Wingard, the safety, was a starter last year and is not playing at all this year. So, former starter, wants some safety depth, there's a name for you. And finally, Austin Hooper, who is tight end 2 and almost 2.5 on the Titans. Jeff Swaim, for some reason, plays over him. I don't know why Tennessee signed him. Bad signing because they paid him a bunch of money. He's not doing anything there. If you want a tight end who can do some balanced things where he's not a premier athlete, Hooper is a good name to go consider.